God says, I saw your tears when nobody was watching. Before you leave this message, take a breath and stay here for a moment. There is something your heart needs to hear today. You have been carrying things that you rarely talk about. You have learned how to smile when you are hurting. You have learned how to say, I'm good, when deep inside you are asking God, how much longer? Maybe nobody knows how tired you really are. Maybe people see you functioning, working, taking care of responsibilities, answering messages, helping others, and continuing with your day. But God sees beyond the surface. He sees the moments when you close the door and finally allow yourself to feel everything. He sees the tears you wipe away. He sees the nights when your mind refuses to become quiet. He sees the bills, the uncertainty, the family concerns, the broken relationships, the unanswered questions, and the future you are afraid to imagine. And today, I want you to hear this clearly. Your pain has not made you invisible to God. You may have felt forgotten, but you were never forgotten. You may have felt abandoned, but you were never abandoned. And you may believe your story has been delayed for too long, but delay does not mean denial. Sometimes God is doing his deepest work in the seasons when you can see the least. So stay with this message. Because maybe the thing you have been calling the end is actually the beginning of something you could not recognize yet. 1. God saw what nobody else saw. There are tears that fall in front of people, and then there are tears that nobody ever sees. The second kind can be the hardest. Those are the tears you cry late at night, the tears that come after everyone has gone to sleep. The tears you hold back because you do not want to explain yourself again. Maybe you have sat in your car for a few extra minutes before walking into your home because you needed a moment to collect yourself. Maybe you have stared at your phone waiting for a message that never came. Maybe you have looked at your bank account and wondered how everything would work out. Maybe you have prayed for someone you love, while secretly wondering whether your own heart would ever receive the peace you keep asking for. God saw it. He saw what people missed. He saw the courage it took to keep moving when you felt emotionally exhausted. And your tears were not meaningless. They revealed how deeply you cared. They revealed how much you had hoped. They revealed how much you were trying to hold together. But now you need to understand something. You were never expected to carry everything by yourself. You were trying to survive the season with your own strength, while God was inviting you to place the weight into his hands. 2. Your current season is not your final destination. One of the greatest mistakes we make during difficult seasons is believing that what we see today is what we will see forever. When you have been waiting for months or even years, it becomes easy to think, maybe this is just my life. But a season is not a sentence. Winter is not the death of spring. A dark morning is not proof that the sun has disappeared, and a difficult chapter does not determine the ending of the book. Think about a seed buried beneath the ground. If you looked only at the surface, you might think nothing is happening. There is no flower, no visible growth, no evidence of progress. But beneath the soil, roots are developing. Something is happening where the human eye cannot see. Your life may feel like that right now. You may not see the breakthrough. You may not see the opportunity. You may not understand why certain doors remain closed. But unseen does not mean inactive. God can be working in places you cannot yet see. And sometimes the greatest preparation happens in silence. 3. Stop letting fear write your future. There is a battle that happens inside your mind. Nobody hears it, nobody sees it. But you feel it. You imagine something going wrong, and then your mind creates 10 more problems around it. You think about tomorrow before tomorrow arrives. You replay yesterday even though you cannot change it. You worry about conversations that have not happened. You fear losses that have not occurred. And slowly you begin suffering twice. Once in your imagination, and once when life actually happens. But listen carefully. Not every thought deserves your agreement. Fear can sound convincing. Fear can sound logical. Fear can even sound like wisdom. But fear often takes one possibility and turns it into a guaranteed future. You might think, What if nothing improves? What if I always struggle financially? What if I never find real love? What if my family never changes? What if I fail again? But what if the future is not as hopeless as your fear is telling you? What if there are opportunities you cannot see yet? What if there are people you have not met? What if there are doors that have not opened because the right time has not arrived? You do not need to know every answer today. You only need enough faith to take the next step. 4. Some closed doors were actually protection. There are things you once begged God to give you that you now thank Him for removing. Think about that. There were relationships you thought you could not live without. There were opportunities you believed were your only chance. There were plans you thought had to work, and then suddenly the door closed. At the time, it hurt. You questioned everything. You wondered why your prayers were not being answered. But later you saw something you could not see before. That closed door protected you. Sometimes you are grieving something God is using to redirect you. Sometimes what feels like rejection is actually protection. Sometimes losing access to a certain person creates room for you to rediscover yourself. Sometimes a delayed opportunity prevents you from entering something before you are ready. You do not always understand God's no while you are standing in front of it. Sometimes understanding comes later, so stop assuming every closed door is a punishment. Some doors close because they were never connected to your future, and that is okay. You do not need every door to open. You need the right door to open. 5. Your waiting season is building something inside you. You have probably prayed, God, change my situation. But sometimes God begins by changing you inside the situation. He develops patience. He develops wisdom. He teaches you how to recognize what is healthy and what is not. He teaches you how to stop chasing people who do not value you. He teaches you how to stop begging for opportunities that require you to abandon your peace. He teaches you how to become comfortable walking away from what once controlled you. And that growth may not feel dramatic. Sometimes growth looks like responding differently. You used to panic, now you pray. You used to chase, now you wait. You used to explain yourself to everyone. Now you understand that not everyone deserves access to your heart. You used to let rejection define you. Now you recognize that rejection does not determine your worth. That is growth. Your circumstances may not have changed yet, but you have. And sometimes that is the first miracle. 6. You are not behind in life. Stop comparing your timeline to somebody else's. This is especially important when you scroll through social media. You see somebody buying a house, someone getting married, someone launching a business, someone traveling, someone celebrating a promotion. And suddenly you look at your own life and think, what am I doing wrong? But you are comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. You do not know their entire story. You do not know what they sacrificed. You do not know what they struggle with privately. And more importantly, their timeline is not your assignment. A flower does not apologize because another flower bloomed first. A tree does not become worthless because another tree grew taller. Your journey has its own timing. Maybe your path has taken longer because you are being prepared differently. Maybe you have had to learn lessons others never had to learn. Maybe your struggles have developed a depth in you that comfort never could. Do not call yourself late simply because your story looks different. You are still moving. You are still becoming. You are still growing. 7. God can restore what pain took from you. Maybe you lost more than money. Maybe you lost confidence. Maybe you lost trust. Maybe you lost a relationship. Maybe you lost a version of yourself that used to laugh easily. Maybe disappointment made you cautious. Maybe betrayal made you question everyone. Maybe repeated failure convinced you that trying again was pointless. But God can restore more than circumstances. He can restore your ability to hope. He can restore your peace. He can restore your confidence. He can restore your willingness to believe that something good can still happen. Restoration does not always mean getting the exact thing you lost back. Sometimes restoration means becoming whole without it. Sometimes the greatest healing is realizing, I survived what I thought would destroy me. And now you are no longer the same person who entered that painful season. You are wiser, you are stronger, you are more aware, you know what matters now, and that knowledge is part of your restoration. 8. Release what you were never meant to carry. There comes a point where you have to put something down. You cannot walk into a new season while constantly carrying the emotional luggage of the old one. Release the conversation you keep replaying. Release the person who already chose to leave. Release the mistake you made years ago. Release the guilt. Release the need to understand why someone hurt you. Release the obsession with proving yourself to people who have already decided what they want to believe. Forgiveness does not mean pretending the pain never happened. It means refusing to let the pain control the rest of your life. You can acknowledge what happened without allowing it to become your identity. You can say, yes, that hurt me. Yes, that changed me. But it will not own me. There is freedom in that decision. And maybe today is the day you stop carrying something that has been exhausting you for far too long. 9. Peace does not require perfect circumstances. You may be waiting for everything to become perfect before you allow yourself to breathe. You tell yourself, when the money improves, I'll have peace. When my relationship is fixed, I'll have peace. When my family situation changes, I'll have peace. When I finally get the answer, I'll have peace. But if you make peace dependent on circumstances, your peace will always be vulnerable. Life will always have uncertainty. There will always be something you cannot control. There will always be another question. So learn to find peace while the situation is still developing. You can have an unanswered question and still have peace. You can be waiting and still have peace. You can be uncertain about tomorrow and still be grateful for today. Peace is not pretending everything is fine. Peace is knowing that even when everything is not fine, you do not have to fall apart. 10. Your next chapter requires a different version of you. Maybe God is preparing you for something you have been praying about. But perhaps the reason you have not stepped into it yet is because the old version of you would not know how to handle it. Imagine receiving everything you asked for while still carrying the insecurities that existed before the blessing. The opportunity arrives, but you are too afraid to take it. The healthy relationship arrives, but you sabotage it because you expect betrayal. The financial opportunity arrives, but fear causes you to make desperate decisions. The new environment arrives, but you continue behaving like the person who survived the old one. That is why preparation matters. Your next chapter needs more than a changed environment. It needs a changed mindset. You are learning to think differently, to choose differently, to respond differently, to trust differently. And this is why some seasons feel so uncomfortable. You are becoming someone you have never been before. Final blessing. So, my beloved child, before you leave this message, remember what you have heard. Your tears were seen, your prayers were heard, your struggles were known, and your story is still being written. You are not forgotten because the answer has taken time. You are not rejected because one door closed. You are not failing because your journey looks different from someone else's. And you are not finished simply because this chapter has been difficult. Look at how far you have already come. There was a time you thought you would never survive what you are now looking back on. There were nights you thought you would never feel okay again. There were moments you thought you had reached your limit, and yet somehow you kept going. You woke up, you took another breath, you made another decision, you kept moving. That matters. Maybe you are not where you want to be yet, but you are not where you used to be, and that deserves recognition. So tonight, or whenever you hear this message, Give yourself permission to stop fighting every battle at once. You do not have to solve your entire life today. You do not have to understand everything today. You do not have to know exactly how everything will work out. Take the next step, then another, and another. Trust that your life can change in ways you cannot currently predict. Trust that a painful chapter can eventually become a powerful testimony. Trust that what you learned in the darkness can help you recognize the light. And most importantly, do not allow your hardest season to convince you that your entire life will always feel this way. It won't. The storm has a limit. The night has a limit. The waiting has a limit. And there will be another morning. There will be another opportunity to laugh. Another reason to be grateful. Another moment when you realize that you made it through. So lift your head, take a deep breath, release what you cannot control, and walk forward. Not because you know exactly what tomorrow holds, but because you no longer need to be controlled by fear of tomorrow. Your story is not over. Your purpose is not gone. Your future is not cancelled. And the pain you experience does not get the final word. Hope gets the final word. If this message spoke directly to your heart, write, "I trust God" in the comments. Not because everything is perfect, not because you have every answer, but because you are choosing faith over fear. You are choosing hope over hopelessness. You are choosing to believe that your current circumstances are not the complete picture. And when you look back one day, you may realize that the season you wanted to escape was also the season that prepared you for the person you were becoming. So keep going, keep praying, keep believing, keep your heart open to new possibilities. The tears you cried were not proof that you were weak. They were proof that you cared. The battles you survived were not proof that you were forgotten. They were evidence of how far you have come. And this chapter may have been painful, but it is not the end of your story. Your story is still being written, and there are pages ahead that you have never seen, so don't give up before you reach them.